taking notes from nobody.
Your superstars have off games.
Follow us on social media at Celtics Talk Weekly.
Hello and welcome, everybody, to the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. The Celtics, they take home an L, go back down to 500 tonight at 13-13. They lose to the Los Angeles Clippers, 114-111. Ian, what's your first reaction on this game? We're just in the same spiral.
This was probably the worst loss of the Celtics season. And that's crazy to say because the Celtics have had a lot of bad losses this year. But I think this has to be the worst. You come into this game knowing that Paul George is not playing tonight. Paul George is an MVP candidate. You know, he is being one of the best players on this Clippers team. He's carrying them to relevance at this point. And you go out there and you start the game okay. All right, the first quarter, it's not great, but, I mean, at least you start okay. You're winning after the first quarter. Then the second quarter comes, and you just absolutely collapse. You let Brandon Boston score, like 21 points in the first half? Like, I mean, shout out to Brandon Boston because, I mean, great story. He was actually the guy that was in the car crash with Terrence Clark. Rest in peace, but... I mean, Jesus Christ, man, that second quarter. And the third quarter was even worse because we ended up being down by 21 points to a Clippers team without Paul George, without Kawhi Leonard, and Reggie Jackson not shooting very well. And so we go down to 21 points, and then, you know, we make this heroic comeback, blah, 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 blah. You know, Tatum goes off at the end of the third quarter, whatever. We keep shooting ourselves in the foot any opportunity we get. Anytime we're within striking distance, we shoot ourselves in the foot, and we allow an 8-0 run again, and we have to make up the deficit all over again. Fourth quarter comes, and, you know, you have a chance. You have a chance to get 6 points, and you miss all of them. Josh Richardson misses a wide-open layup. And, I mean, I'm not going to fault Richardson that much in this game. He played well compared to most of the other people that played tonight. Smart. Steals the ball. Tries to throw an alley-oop to Tatum. Throws it about 10 feet over his head, thinking that he's running with Taco, and Taco is going to get that. And then Al Horford, I mean, granted it was contested a little bit, but Al Horford still should have made that layup at the end. Like, that was 6 points the Celtics should have had. And we... absolutely blew it tonight. And then the fourth quarter was even worse. At the end of the fourth quarter, you have a chance to get a stop. There's 2 seconds left on the shot clock. Eric Bledsoe passes it out to Luke Kennard in the corner. Josh Richardson decides, hey, you know, Schroeder looks like he's doing a good job defending Bledsoe. Let's leave the best shooter on the Clippers wide open in the corner and let him hit a wide open three. And basically, that basically sealed the game from there. The Celtics ended up making it a 1-point game, and their execution in that 1-point window, they had about 7 seconds to get a foul, and they spent 6 seconds chasing the Clippers around like they were chicken with their head cut off. And, you know, they finally get the foul. Tatum has to heave a half-court shot. It doesn't go in. Celtics lose. So, this was probably overall the worst game the Celtics have played this season, and I have no shame in saying that. And I know I've been trying to not be a Celtics hater and, you know, try to look at things subjectively. But how the hell do you look at things subjectively tonight when you lose to a Clippers team that doesn't have Paul George? They're a bottom offense in the league even with him. It's just so insane, and now we're at 500 again. You know, we thought, oh, this team was going to go the West Coast. We were going to win these 3 games against the Jazz, the Lakers, and the Clippers. And not the Jazz, but you know what I mean, the Blazers. And, I mean...
Yep.
Oh, my God, man.
Yeah.
I'm just so annoyed with this team right now.
If you just look at the box score of this game, you said it multiple times. The Celtics shot themselves in the foot tonight way too many times.
22 turnovers.
For 33 Clippers points. I mean, imagine if you take away all of those turnovers. Imagine if you just turn the ball over 10 times, 12 less times.
We win this game by 20.
Yeah, you win this game by at least 15 points. And the Celtics, the whole night, it was just an ordeal of them shooting themselves in the foot. And it started in that second quarter when they dug themselves out that 10-point deficit. And then it snowballed eventually into 21. They came back from that. And then they let the Clippers finish the third quarter with momentum that carried into the fourth, in which was never really gained back by the Celtics until the later stages of the game when it was really all but decided. I mean, at the end of the game, I was thinking, I know exactly what I'm going to say coming into here, and yet the Celtics still had a chance at the end. And you just think throughout the game, if they would have just capitalized on more opportunities throughout the night to come back, because there were those opportunities. The Clippers, they did have dry spells. They did have moments where they missed Paul George. I mean, you look at the
Reggie Jackson
tonight,
was literally trying to give this game away. Like, Reggie Jackson was literally trying his best. I bet you he bet money on the Celtics winning this game tonight. Like, he was trying his hardest to give this game away.
He came in here and took the money line. He took our advice, took the money line. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying, but, like, come on, man.
And, and you look at also Brandon Boston Jr., you said it, BJ Boston, some people know him as the Kentucky kid from last year, comes in to this Clippers team. He scored 46 points, they mentioned, in the G League about a week and a half ago, and now he comes in tonight. His previous career high was 13 points coming into tonight. His previous high was 13 points. He had that pretty much halfway through the second quarter. He had 15 points.
I think he had that in the first quarter.
Yeah, quite possibly. He finished with 27 points tonight. So there's your Paul George difference right there. I mean, if you don't let Brandon Boston come off the bench and score 27 points in 25 minutes, you probably have a legitimate shot at winning this game. Because if you look at the rest of the roster, Nicholas Batum didn't really give them much. I mean, their starters, Marcus Morris, that was he was a huge difference maker as well. And I'm not ready to, I'm not going to say that this is the end of the Celtics team. We're just going to be 500. I'm planting.
Oh, me neither. I'm not saying it's over. I'm just irritated.
Yeah, I don't want to take too much out of this game because at the end of the day, it is the second night of a back-to-back. It's the fourth West Coast road trip game. This is almost somewhat expected at this point, but against the competition tonight, that's what makes this slightly irritating and slightly concerning moving forward because this is a game they ultimately should have taken and they didn't. Do you feel moving forward that, they're going to fare better because, tonight, I don't think tonight is a good gauge on where the team can go. I want to see them get back home. But then again, our home competition is very rough over the next week. But what is the hope for this team moving forward? What is the expectation now for this team moving forward? Because now we're back down at 500. We haven't been back down at 500 since what? We were
like 9-9 or something. Or
yeah, I think we were 8-8 because we were 10-8. Yeah, I think it was
8.
8.
And then
so we were
8-8.
Now 10 games later, we're now back at 500. What do you think the expectation is moving forward?
I don't know, man. Like, what's funny is that we were on the post-game or the pregame show last game, and we said what were the expectations for this team moving forward, and I said top 6 seed in the East. Now, I mean, for the long-term stretch, I guess that's still an expectation, but for this next couple weeks, it's going to be. At this point, I hope they win one. I mean, you gotta face the Suns, the Bucks, the Warriors, and the Knicks. And the Knicks is on the second half of a back-to-back. So, I mean, this stretch coming up for the Celtics is... I mean, this is probably the worst case scenario for the Celtics right now. We expected them to win at least 2 of the next 3 when it came to the Blazers, Lakers, and Clippers, and we've already lost
3
on this West Coast trip, and we expected them to go at least like 3-2. We expected them to go 3-2.
And the best they can do is 2-3, and they have to face the Suns in Phoenix, who are still blazing hot, even though their streak was snapped. Their 18-game winning streak was snapped. They're still one of the best teams in the NBA and probably the best team at the moment. Right, the
Oh
Celtics
yeah.
tonight, though, go back to this game too, and I just felt early on, we talked about this so many times with this team. You have to get out to a good start and sustain that energy over time. Even though the Celtics were, I believe they led after the first quarter. Yeah, they led by 4 points after the first quarter. They led. They had 28 points in the first quarter, which is decent, but I didn't feel the energy was necessarily there with the team at all. I mean, the turnovers were just very apparent throughout the night. Like you said, 22 turnovers for 33 Clippers points, and those are just problems that a team. Those are effort problems sometimes, and this team is given the right amount of effort the last couple of weeks. I would say after that hellacious start to the season. Yet now, this game tonight, this was probably your first. This is why I probably don't take as much out of this game as I think we should, because yeah, it was a really bad loss and a really irritating loss to a good extent. However, this is kind of an outlier game in terms of effort. Like I certainly did not expect the team to come out and play like this tonight, and neither did anyone else. Yet they did, and maybe that's good to a certain extent because at points during the season we sit here or I should say last season we sat there and we went. There were just some games they came out and you're going. This was expected. Like the team wins two great games. Like this isn't sustainable. They're going to come out here and lose this third, lose this fourth, lose this fifth. That was the vibe around that team. And yet now, when we have a game like this, it's more of an outlier game. So I guess that's some optimism moving forward, I would say, in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, tonight's loss was terrible. And now, looking ahead, Phoenix Suns on Saturday or Friday night, I should say.
Yeah, Friday night.
Friday night in Phoenix. That'll be on ESPN. Another late game as well. Do you have any hope for us to pull out this game in Phoenix? An upset? This would be a grand upset. We're going to be favored. Or sorry, we're not going to be favored at all. They're going to be favored by what? We guess the line right now. 8? Probably
Gotta
8.
be more than that. I'd say like 10. I'm not going to lie. I want to have faith in the Celtics as a Celtics fan. I want to have faith. But, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. Even if let's just say we won our last 4 games, I still don't think I would have picked the Celtics to beat the Suns. The Phoenix Suns are just a different breed. Like, I mean, there are tiers. There's tiers to the NBA teams right now. And, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. It's the Warriors, the Suns, and the Nets. And then it's everybody else. It feels like it a little bit that way just on a talent base and like the way they're playing this season. So, I mean, I'm not giving the Celtics 0 chance of winning, but at the same time, it's like a David versus Goliath scenario. And it's kind of ironic that we weren't saying that 3 or 4 years ago. We were saying it's going to be a David versus Goliath scenario to face the Suns in Phoenix. Although, if I think about it, the Celtics have never really had any success in Phoenix, even when Phoenix was bad. I mean,
Tyler Ulis. Shout out Tyler Ulis.
That was the thing I was going to bring up. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't even know, man. It's going to be a miracle if we win this game against the Suns, in my opinion, but I'm not going to give them 0 chance because it's the NBA and any team can beat any other team on any given night. So,
yeah, and one player the Celtics are going to need to step up a little bit more on Saturday, I would say as well. Jason Tatum tonight. What was the most frustrating part about Jason Tatum tonight from your perspective? Was it the fact that he looked like the best player in the world for 10 minutes, or the fact that he looked like a G leaguer for the rest of the game? I am not quite certain. What was more frustrating to you in terms of Tatum tonight? Because that was such an up and down Tatum game. I mean,
you know what? I think the most annoying thing with Tatum was that it felt like even when he was on the court, it felt like he wasn't there. Like, it felt like I don't know these players' personal lives. I don't know if they had some fun time out on the town in LA after the game last night. But
that can be comfortably assumed now. I always anytime we go to LA or Miami or New York or anywhere like that, LA and Miami specifically. I remember that photo of Terry Rozier. He was walking into the arena with like his like Hawaiian shirt and like he looked all fresh and whatnot. And then the next day he's walking onto the plane with a hoodie and like sunglasses and he's totally down. It's like there it is. Then the Celtics lost by 20 in Miami. It's like there you go. But I think that can be assumed. Probably maybe 2 days.
But like
Tatum did a whole podcast the other day. I saw it was before the game yesterday. Like, what are they do a lot in LA when they go there.
I mean, it's the entertainment capital of the world, so I mean, I can see why. But I think the most frustrating thing with Tatum was that it kind of looked like outside of him not really looking like he wanted to be there, the thing with Tatum is that he has to be the leader of this team, or at least he needs to be a leader in some sort of sense. He doesn't necessarily have to be the vocal leader. We have Marcus Smart and Al Horford for that. But he needs to be the example, set the example on the court. I've watched a video from another YouTuber, Rusty Buckets. Shout out to him. I doubt he watches this, but let's say out of random he does.
You never know.
You never know.
We just call out his name a million times. He'll watch.
Exactly. Shout out to Rusty Buckets. But he made a whole video on Tatum, and they said the biggest problem with Tatum is he takes contested shots when he doesn't need to. Although, I don't think that was his issue tonight because he was attacking the rim, but Zubac was just absolutely insane in the rim, and he blocked Tatum like 4 times. And then the other thing. He had 10 free throws. He got there, so that wasn't the issue tonight. The other issue that he said the problem with Tatum is his selective passiveness. And it felt like in this game, he looked pretty selectively passive out there. Like, outside of that time where he looked like the best player on the court for like those 5-ish minutes in the third quarter.
No.
Yeah, I mean, even if he was on the court, I didn't notice. I'm not going to lie to you. I think he was on the court at one point, and I was just thinking, I'm like, hey, where's Tatum at? And then he's been there the whole time, but he's just not doing anything. Also, I mean, I hate to do this, and I don't want to call out any player, but I kind of hate to do this to this player at most. Al Horford has to step up, man. His defense has been rough the last couple games. Now, I know he's getting up there.
On offense tonight either. 13.5 under.
I know he messed up my freaking over too, but I'm not mad at him for that. I
didn't go over. I went under, didn't I?
I know you went under. Yeah, I went over, but Al, I mean, I love Al to death, man. It's just like, the past few games he's not looking too hot, and like I get it, he's getting up there in age. We're not expecting him to be 2016 Al Horford, but at the same time, like, you got to close out a little more on those 3-pointers. That Reggie Jackson 3-pointer before the Luke Kennard 3-pointer in the corner, Al Horford could have stepped up a little more to that. I personally don't think there was much he could have done on the Marcus Morris shot at the end of the game because he played solid defense. But, there's really nothing you can do when Marcus Morris is hitting that shot. So, but
I almost wonder if Al Horford is dealing with an injury. He's been out a couple of games with back spasms, but those have been the second night of a back-to-back. So, that's usually you look at an injury and you go, well, that's not probably an injury. That's more likely rest. But if he is dealing with an injury, that could possibly be the cause of this drop-off we've seen from him defensively, because at the beginning of the year, he looked like one of our best players. He was our best player there for a minute because Tatum and Brown were so inconsistent, and Horford was the one that was consistently stepping up, and now he's kind of taken a step back from that. Not saying, that it can't get back to that level, but I think, number one, hitting shots for him has to be something that just needs to happen more. Now, tonight, Al Horford, he was 4 of 8 from the field, but he's 1 of 4 from 3. The 3 ball is ultimately going to be the deciding factor. Like when we talk about this over-under tonight, the 13.5, is he going to hit 1, 2, or 3 threes or no threes? And tonight he hit 1, but you'd like to see those shots fall more. And I thought, too, there were a couple of opportunities that he had from the 3-point line that were a little ill-advised. I thought there were a couple of times where the Celtics just kind of needed a bucket, and he hoisted a contested three early in their shot clock. That's not a veteran move out of a guy that we know, has talked about settling down the game and playing at their own pace. And that was very uncharacteristic from him tonight. So that's not really something I worry about. That was just something that I noted earlier tonight. And also jutting back on Tatum too. This is one of those mirage performances by Jason Tatum tonight where he has 29 points, 10 rebounds, gets to the free throw line 10 times. All of that is great. Shoots 9 of 20, near 50%. That's okay. 2 of 7 from 3. Again, with the 3 ball, Tatum, I don't know what's up. He just cannot hit the 3 ball consistently. And also, though, that doesn't show up on the box score with Tatum. I thought his effort early on in setting the tone, he's supposed to be a guy that leads by example. He's been advertised as a guy that leads by example. And I just thought he did a really bad job of setting the tone defensively tonight. And offensively, he was okay. I thought there were, I shouldn't say he was okay scoring the ball. Obviously, he went 9 of 20 and 9 of 10 from the free throw line. That being said, on offense, 6 turnovers tonight. They were the 6 worst turnovers we've ever seen out of Jason Tatum, it seemed like. I have no idea where he was throwing these passes. I have no idea what he was trying to do with some of these passes. A lot of them just throwing it right into the lane, throwing it out of bounds. I have no idea what happened there, but I thought Tatum did a bad job of setting the tone defensively tonight, and also offensively just creating a turnover problem that persisted for the Celtics all night long. Now, like I said, I don't really worry about Jason Tatum moving forward, but tonight I think he would agree that this was a fairly unacceptable performance outside of his numbers on the box score. There were times that he was engaged with the refs. He was, not engaged defensively. He was lacking energy on the floor.
We got another tech too.
Yeah, and there were times where he definitely could have gotten thrown out of that game at the end. And, he's ultimately why the Celtics came back tonight. So this is just one of those Tatum performances where you go, it's a mirage. He played well, but he didn't play to the standards in which that he's held at by the fans and both himself too. I mean, if he wants to be a great player, he has to hold himself to those standards as well. And Tatum, that was just it was a meh performance. I want to see him do better in Phoenix on Saturday. That being said, tonight the Celtics against this Clippers team, we have to talk about somebody else too. It's kind of a curveball, but Marcus Morris, I said it on the pregame show, he can be an all-star level scorer, not exactly an all-star level scorer and like putting up 30 points and doing Kevin Durant shit, but 20 points tonight, hit one of the biggest shots in the entire game. And early on, he had 6 points at half. He had 14 in the second half, so huge for the Clippers. And also, this is within Marcus Morris's personality. Well, I shouldn't say personality, but his game, and I like this because he has a lot of confidence in himself. He was just hoisting up shots pretty much at every opportunity he received.
He just said screw it. He just said screw it. The Nets over this somewhere.
Only Reggie Jackson was above him in shots tonight with 22, and he was 6 of 22. But Marcus Morris, do you ever see a path? I always try to. This is kind of a hypothetical question, but like, what if he ever returns to Boston? I would love to see him back in the Celtics uniform. I thought he set the tone so much for that 17-18 team, and he was kind of like the behind-the-scenes tough guy there. Ooh, I would love him back in the Celtics uniform. What are your thoughts on that real quick before we move on?
Honestly, I would love to have Marcus Morris back. I mean, we talked about this on the pregame show too. Jason Tatum learned a lot from Marcus Morris. Jason Tatum has a lot of respect for Marcus Morris. I mean, you bring in a guy that Tatum is really compatible with. I don't really see an issue in that. Now, there was the reports of him being a cancer in that 18-19 season, but wasn't everyone a cancer in that locker room during that season? So, I mean, if you're Marcus Morris, it's just, do you want to come back? I feel like the Celtics should bring him back. I feel like him and Brad Stevens had a somewhat semi-decent relationship, I can assume. But I think it's just, does Marcus Morris want to come back to Boston? It would be great to have him back. I would definitely 100% welcome him back. It's just if he wants to be back.
Well, speaking of being back with Boston or Celtics acquiring players, maybe not Marcus Morris, but this past week, a couple of names were thrown out there: Karis LeVert, Domantas Sabonis, Miles Turner. We talked about it a little bit on the last post-game, pre-game show, whatever combination it was. But moving forward, the Celtics, I think we kind of expect that. You said it was a miracle. It would be a miracle if we won in Phoenix on Friday night, and that would, if we assume we lose that game, we go to 1-4 on the West Coast road trip, and 2-4 in the month of December, I believe, would be the case because we won that one game against the Sixers as well. When you look at the schedule moving forward, the Bucks, Warriors, Knicks. Assume you lose to the Bucks and Warriors. This is worst case scenario, by the way, or not worst case scenario, but realistic
scenario.
we're realistically simulating this. So let's see, 2-4 after the Suns game. Say the next two games, you're now 2-6 in December, and you win the Knicks game. I'm just gonna assume that. Bing bong. You're 3-6. Say you lose to the Sixers the second time around. You're 3-7. Then you go to the Cavs, you win. You're 4-7. Then you face the Bucks. You're 4-8. You're 5-8 after the Timberwolves game. Sorry, what's on tap, NBA? Just gonna mark that win down right now. What was I at? 5-8? I don't remember.
Yeah, 5-8.
Okay. Say we win the second game against the Clippers at home. So you're 6-8. 6-9 after the Suns game. Nice. And
Not
then
for the
you're 7-9. Yeah, right. 7-9 after the Magic game. Or actually, that would bring us to the end of December. So say we're 6-9 in December, which would make us what? We entered the month at what record?
Well, I think we're at 2-3 now, because we won the Philly game, lost the Jazz, and then we beat the Blazers.
This is what happens when we have math on the fly here. Well,
yeah, this is
assume
the
we go
issue
6-9 in December, 6-9 over this next stretch, and we look meh. Do the Celtics entertain some deals at the trade deadline? Do they entertain a possible, okay, Al Horford, he's kind of, he's say Al Horford, he does continue the streak of dipping a little bit, and he is making $27 million next year as long as the team doesn't waive him before training camp. Do the Celtics entertain a possible Al Horford, maybe Miles Turner, Sabonis swap in some sense with other pieces involved? And Indiana, if they're going for a rebuild, it'd be morally shitty for the Celtics to send Al Horford to Indiana. But I think, if they're doing a rebuild and we give them assets in return along with Horford as a big salary filler, huge salary filler, and which would, completely just, it would complicate the deal. Do we possibly make a move with Al Horford? Do we possibly make a move for Sabonis or Turner? Do we possibly make a move for LeVert? And I should note too. Wait, Malcolm Brogdon off the table. There's a trade restriction on him that expires after the deadline, so no Malcolm Brogdon. But go ahead. Sorry.
Right, yeah. I mean, you have to entertain it. You can't not do anything if you're Brad Stevens. Now, this is Brad Stevens' first trade deadline as a GM, so, we can't expect him to go all, chips all in the table here, trading every single asset you have for, Bradley Beal or something like that. So it's not going to be that, in my opinion. I don't think they trade for Bradley Beal this season. I don't think Bradley Beal ends up getting traded this season. But when you think of the Pacers, he honestly probably does, or does, I don't know. He's just like Damian Lillard. Here's a quick tangent, before we get back to this. When Damian Lillard says he wants to stay in Portland, and then he's asked for a 2-year, $100-something million contract just to stay and get paid $50 million a year, it doesn't sound like he wants to stay in Portland. But that's neither here nor there. Back to the actual question at hand. Do we entertain trade offers for Al Horford if we can potentially get a Turner or a Sabonis? I think we do. I honestly think we do. Again, it'll be morally shitty, and it might mess up the locker room a lot if we trade Al Horford and we lose him a second time, it will suck morally, but will it make the team better? Like right now, would you rather have Miles Turner or Al Horford?
Well, I mean, Miles Turner's almost 10 years younger than him. You'd have to take Miles Turner at this point. And Miles Turner, too. I mean, Al Horford's good defensively, but Miles Turner is probably one of the better defensive bigs in the league. And obviously, Miles Turner holds some concerns around his game. No post-up game, not a good roll man. Defensively, he's good at blocking shots, but, if he's pulled out to the perimeter or anything like that, he's not going to be able to do anything. Unlike Al Horford, that can be a little frisky out there. Miles Turner, I like Miles Turner fit on the Celtics, but not with this current roster, not with Al Horford on the roster, not with, alongside those two other bigs. I think the Celtics have the potential to make a Miles Turner trade. Like we're just throwing out. This is trade season all of a sudden. I'm just throwing this out here.
This is just hypotheticals here. I don't think we actually I might just make my point now, I guess. I don't think we actually end up trading for Miles Turner or Sabonis. Maybe LeVert, maybe, but I don't see us trading for Turner or Sabonis. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. See, here's the thing: we'd have to somehow get a gauge. Well, the front office will get a gauge on what they want because it's a negotiation. But say, okay, if the Pacers are keen on getting young players and picks for Miles Turner, or if they're keen on getting young players and picks and salary filler for him, I think the Celtics have the assets to make a deal because you have a Nesmith, you have Grant Williams out there. As valuable as he's been to the team, he's still a trade piece all of a sudden, and I don't think they trade him. But you have Nesmith, Langford, Grant Williams. Peyton Pritchard, obviously, you could throw out there. All of those young guys, you could go and use that asset now, potentially. And, there's other salary fillers on the team. Enes Kanter comes into the fray. Juancho Hernangomez makes $7 million. That's a pretty big salary.
That's insane. Who the hell gave Juancho Hernangomez $7 million? That's insane.
I think it was either Minnesota or Denver, if I'm not mistaken. One of those two teams gave him. I think it might have been Denver. But to be fair, he was in their rotation at one point.
True.
He was good at one point. I don't know. He's been taken off the floor in the past couple of years because of his defense. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. But the Celtics have assets to make a deal work. Say, I'm just throwing out trades now. Let's just do this. Say you expend the Peyton Pritchard asset right now. You expend the Peyton Pritchard asset, and then they want also Romeo as well. And then we'll throw in his freedom, just because the whole big thing. And wait a minute. Okay, and Juancho. Sorry. We are in the middle of fake trade right now.
Yeah, this is a fake trade season. Although we're only at the beginning of December, but we're still in we're thinking ahead right now.
So does Freedom, Hernangomez, Langford, Pritchard for Turner get it done?
You probably have to throw in some picks, obviously, but.
So that's a pretty big haul, though. Like, we'd probably have to get something back from them. Clearly,
we probably have to get
4 players in the middle of the season. Probably a third team would have to get involved. This is so hypothetical. We've gone.
I think we've gone way too far off of the already previous point here. But
yeah, my bad.
This is what happened. This is what happens at these 2 a.m. post game shows on the East Time.
Yeah,
so
okay.
That's what you guys get.
Yeah, you get hypothetical NBA trades. But anyway, the Celtics. We should get on to some over-unders from tonight because
great.
I don't know if we had the best of nights here. I don't remember the over-unders, to be honest.
I
know we had Al Horford, 13.5 points, and
I took over.
And I took the under, so I got that one.
And then the second one was
halftime.
halftime, we
leading at
both,
halftime?
all of us said over,
Yeah,
and it was
nope,
not even
not even
close.
close. It was 13 points. 13 points. And then I don't remember the third one. It was
The third one was how many players were going to get into double digits. I think it was over under 4.5,
oh,
and 5
we
people.
we got that. We got that.
So we both hit
5
the over
dudes.
on that.
Five guys in the Celtics rotation went over tonight. 17 from Josh Richardson, 19 from Dennis Schroeder. A little bit of a bounce back game from him, although the 4 turnovers. 16 from Smart, another bounce back game. 11 from Al Horford, almost didn't get there for Al Horford, and obviously 29 for Jason Tatum. Al Horford was also a plus 11. Like this is a. Before we get back to over unders real quick. Look at this plus minus makes no sense, and this is why we shouldn't ever just look at plus minus as the ultimate deciding factor in whether or not a player's good. 11 from Al Horford, plus 9 from Schroeder, plus 8 from Williams. Everybody else was a minus except for Marcus Smart, who broke even. It's like, how did that happen? How does that happen? It's so weird.
Plus minus is such a weird stat to me. Like I'm not big into like the whole calculations of plus minus or like calculations of stats sometimes, but like plus minus just feels like a random stat sometimes. Like it doesn't accurately gauge how well a player played in the
because
game.
Robert Williams
is a minus 17. He did not play
Yeah.
at a minus 17 tonight, in my opinion. But
yeah,
I don't know.
but anyway,
I sound like the old man yelling at cloud stage right now. These damn analytics, these damn kids. Back in my day, no. Anyway,
I
and
love
then
the analytics, but I mean, my whole basis when I started my page was, hey, don't base everything off the numbers. Watch the games. Watch what is going on in the games. Watch the body language. Watch the plays. Watch what you are seeing. Like, analyze it. So yeah, that's my advice to everybody. But over under. So what was our final record tonight? You were.
I was one of. Well, we had 4, but I don't remember what the other one was.
You had a 4th tonight?
Yeah, we did. We had the Horford. We had the over 5 people. We had
Was it? Did we do turnovers? This is what the show has become now when we don't have Rob on here. We don't know what the over-unders were. We're just guessing. We're like, was it Tatum points?
I thought it was turnovers, but I thought it was
in the turnover department too.
I think it was if the Celtics. Oh wait, no, it was steals.
It was. Yes. It was 7 steals. It was over under 7.5. Do the Clippers get steals or the Celtics get steals?
The Celtics get steals, and we ended up with 11, and I think we all said under.
Oh my lord, 11. That is the 10th time this season they've got over 7.5 in 26 games, and we took the under.
All right, so total points here. Seamus, I think you were 2 of 4. I was 1 of 4.
500.
So another
like this ball club.
Another rough night
for being just as bad as I am good, just like the Celtics.
Well, at least your guarantee record is safe, but
I'm 7-3 right now. I took an L yesterday. It was bad. If I would have guaranteed the Blazers win, it would have been 8-3. Feel a lot better. Should have guaranteed that one. But we'll get them.
Horseshoes and hand grenades,
Oh, wait. Do I still have it over here? Oh, yeah. There we go. We have it right here, folks.
Oh, yeah. December 8th. Actually, hang on. I have the whiteboard now, so I can...
yeah, I need a whiteboard. I need a giant whiteboard back here. But anyway, so 2-4, not too bad. You were what, 1-4 tonight? You said?
Yeah, rough outing tonight.
I want to know our overall record. Justin probably has the records from October, November. I don't know who's been writing them down, but anyway. But that brings us now to our. I guess we kind of talked about this next game. This brings us to our our looking ahead segment for a minute. The Phoenix Suns on Friday. What do the Celtics legitimately need to do in order to come out and win this game? Because, what can the Celtics do? What what can the Celtics honestly do to come out and win this game? Like, I'm actually searching for answers here. I really have no idea.
Well, that is definitely a question. That is a good looking question right there. I don't know, man. I mean, we just have to. I think the only thing we can do is out defense them, and that sounds weird because you would think we would have to out offense them, but the Suns' defense is really, really, really good. Like everybody that saw that first Warriors Suns game knows Mikal Bridges put Steph Curry in jail. So if Mikal Bridges is on Jason Tatum all night, Jason Tatum's gonna have a rough night. So I mean, the only things I can think of is we either come out hot, we score like 50 points in the first quarter, and then we continue to score 50 points every other quarter, and then somehow that happens, and then the only other thing, like logically, like realistic thing I can think of is us having to out defense them, which is not going to be easy because they have Devin Booker, who is notorious for killing the Celtics, quote unquote 70-point game. I think it did. I remember it happened at the Garden because it was kind of funny. My friend who actually went to that game, he got tickets for like $10 because it was the Suns game and the Suns sucked. He got tickets for $10 up in the 300 levels, and he watched Devin Booker drop 70 on the Celtics, which is kind of cool. But anyway, I feel like the Celtics defense, they can't afford any of the mistakes they made tonight. They just cannot afford it. So I mean, the Celtics basically have to play a perfect game tomorrow if they want to beat the Suns. Now, if Rob was here, Rob would have given us like some actual good reasons as to what the Celtics can do to win. But for me personally, I think our defense just has to be incredible tomorrow or Friday.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I think number one, it has to be limiting mistakes, which you cannot. If the Celtics come out Friday and do what they did tonight against the Clippers, it's not going to go so well. Let's see. Yep, there it is.
There you go. This is Seamus, guaranteed. By the way. This isn't my guarantee. So hang on.
Oh yeah, wait. You got to put like the initials or something at the bottom.
There it is.
There we go. Nice.
All right, so just so you guys are aware.
Right, and the Celtics this game Friday against Phoenix, they cannot do what they did tonight against the Clippers in terms of turning the ball over 22 times, allowing 33 points off of turnovers. That is going to come back and bite them in the ass if they actually face a really, really good team like the Suns on Friday. And also, you mentioned it too, and I agree with your point here, is the Celtics have to play better defense than the Suns. They have to come out there and be physical and be scrappy and play the Celtics defense that we've seen them play from, mid-November to now, it seems. I would say the Celtics, I mean, it's not like they don't have a chance to win the game. It's not like, the Celtics don't have any talent whatsoever. It's not like we're going in there like the Pelicans or the Pistons or the Magic. No, like the Celtics can pull out this game. They just have to find the right game plan. And I think, number one, limiting mistakes, coming out and playing scrappy defense. And also, I would say, against this Phoenix Suns team, I've been screaming for it all season long. You have to do more off-ball cutting. You have to do more. You just have to move off-ball more. You have to set more off-ball screens. The Celtics, they don't do near as enough off-ball movement as they should throughout games. And against this Phoenix Suns team, they're going to have an opportunity to take some game film from the Suns and implement it into their system. I mean, they should already have game film on the Suns, but playing them, it's more visual when you're out looking at them on the court. Ime Udoka and his coaching staff. The Suns are one of the best teams at cutting off ball and offensive movement overall, and the Celtics, they need more of that. And I don't think it's going to be magically implemented overnight because we really have not had any indication that that's going to be the case. But coming into the Suns game, going against a team that's really good at that, take something away from this game. Hopefully it's a big game moving forward, not only because, hey, the Celtics, if they're at least competitive and it comes down to the wire in this game, that's a confidence booster because you're playing one of the best teams in the league still and a highly touted team now. But also, you come away from the game, take something away in terms of what they do best, because that's a finals contending team. The Phoenix Suns are a finals contending team that we'll face, and I'm very interested to see this matchup. But I think it only ends one of two ways. It's either going to be a Phoenix blowout or it's going to come down to the wire. I don't foresee a Celtics blowout at all on Friday, nor am I going to guarantee a win. But that being said, Celtics now 13-13 on the season, back down to 500. This is what 500 life looks like.
Hey, I
Any
have a
last thoughts,
question.
Ian?
I have a question.
One more question.
One last question for you though. What do you think about Ime Udoka so far? 13-13 record so far. First year head coach. The fans and the media are kind of roasting him alive right now. Actually, surprisingly, the media hasn't actually been against Ime Udoka yet. The fans absolutely hate him at this point.
I would say that.
What do you think of Ime Udoka so far?
Well, I think fans have to take Ime Udoka with a grain of salt because we're in game 26, or we just finished game 26. He just finished game 26 of his entire head coaching career. So I don't expect him to be, Greg Popovich or Brad Stevens or Dwayne Casey or Casey Jones or Pat Riley out of the gate. Like, he's just not going to be an all-time great coach out of the gate and blow everyone away. That being said, it's the progression over time, and it's what, like I just said with this Phoenix game coming out, it's what can you take away from that game and add to your team. And there's been moments in which I've actually loved his coaching style in terms of the scrappiness this team is bringing defensively. Some of their defensive coverages that, most of the time when the Celtics are playing bad defense, they'll tell you in the post-game presser, it's because we are playing bad defense. It is because we as a team are not giving enough effort and not communicating. It's not because the scheme is messed up. It's because the team is not executing the scheme. And that's also something that you have to take away is the team executing what he wants to be executed? Like Brad Stevens last year, that's kind of what I was crying out for Brad Stevens last year. It's like he had a game plan in place. Team's just not executing. Coach can't really do anything about that. That's not really on the coach. It has to be on the players. Same thing here this year. Anytime the Celtics aren't executing, I don't necessarily think it's a scheme problem. I think it's more of an effort problem from the team, or just they're facing a really good team on some nights, like the Lakers last night, and it just snowballs. And there were some questionable moments in that game. Obviously, this is where the whole he's a new rookie head coach comes into the situation. Some of his rotations are a little meh. His timing on substitutions are meh. His timeout timing sometimes is, not the greatest. And they're just little things that he'll improve on over time, no doubt. And one of those things, to me, is hopefully on the offensive end of the floor. He came in, he implemented ball movement into the system, but like I said, there's just a lack of off-ball movement with this team that you see with other great teams like the Bucks, like the Suns, like the Warriors, like all of those teams that we just haven't seen so far from this team yet. But I like the fact that he came in, brought some ball movement to the offense that we didn't see last year. Brad Stevens, for as good of a coach as he was, there just something wasn't right about that offense last year. It was just too stagnant a lot. There's a lot of moments in Brad Stevens' career where he just kind of let the good guys, the all-star players, the Kimbas, the Kyries, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker, all those guys cook. But, you probably need more movement, and that's what Ime Udoka has brought. But also the defensive end of the floor. I mean, we haven't had this defensive status now that we have now, the Celtics have now, in a year and a half. And that's something you have to take away from his coaching tenure thus far. And I believe he'll be fine moving forward. He's not been perfect, not by a long shot, but he's only in game 26. So, if he's this could potentially be a thing where he hits not a peak as a coach, but say he's a coach that really comes into his own in, say, year 2 or 3. Who knows? So maybe it doesn't all the way click this year. And I don't think anyone should expect anything to click in year 1 perfectly. It takes a perfect storm for that to happen. That's very rare in sports. So I like Ime Udoka thus far. I think he's been good. I mean, there's been a couple slip-ups in the media where you see the inexperience a little bit and just being with the media every single day and being on the spotlight. And that can be obviously, too, very, the pressurized situation for an individual that they're not used to facing, as an assistant head coach or, another role within the basketball organization or a basketball organization. And I like Ime Udoka this far. Of course, fans are going to overreact and say whatever. Like you said, the media hasn't really attacked him. That's a good thing because usually when the media gets on your ass, then that's when things
Then
can
you're
actually
done.
start
Then you're
happening.
done. Then
Yeah, right. But the fans, they've been getting on his ass. But I expect that from fans because
that's just what we do.
the biggest triggers. They have the most sensitive triggers. It doesn't matter. You're playing amazing one night, and everybody thinks you're a finals team, and you play like this, the Celtics like this tonight, and everybody's calling for the coach's head, and they there's no sense of this is just a long season that you just have to get through, and there's going to be ups and downs that you have to take along the way. There's none of that within
We're
the
very
social
reactionary
balance.
fans here.
Very reactionary. So we saw with Brad Stevens, even in the midst of his Coach of the Year 2017-18 campaign, people were still at times just trashing on him whenever they could at bad moments. And I expect that. But Ime Udoka, this too has to be noted with the Celtics. I know I'm just rambling on now, but the Celtics, they love to keep head coaches around totally. Doc was here for almost he was 15 years here. The only reason he
Maybe
left,
a little too long.
the only reason Doc left is because he didn't want to be part of a rebuild. It's not like the Celtics kicked him out or anything. And also Brad Stevens, again, Celtics, they didn't kick him out. They promoted him. It wasn't a firing. So the Celtics love to keep coaches around, even in the midst of their bad years. You look at Doc Rivers' tenure, the first couple of years were terrible under him, and that team had no expectations whatsoever, even with the star and Paul Pierce. And then Brad Stevens, too, the first 2 years, he lifts.
You are the bad team.
Yeah, you miss the playoffs and you're lifted to the 7th seed, and then they make it to the playoffs and overachieve, and that's where Brad Stevens' status was, attained. But he had that 25-win season, and it's not like people were jumping on him. I mean, I'm sure they were probably to some extent back then, but it's not like his head, he was on the hot seat. So I expect nothing less from the fans. Let the fans be fans. Let them have their opinions. But I believe Ime Udoka is going to be here for quite a bit, and he's been okay this far. He hasn't been amazing. He hasn't been awful. He's been okay.
Yeah. No, I agree. I just wanted to listen to your thoughts about Ime Udoka because
I just
it's a
took
little hard
30
to.
minutes to say that he was okay.
Yeah, basically. I mean that whole long-winded thing just to say, yeah, he's all right.
He's all right.
But I mean, yeah. Well, no, that's kind of the same opinion that I kind of have because, like, there's only so much a coach can do. Outside of controlling, he controls who's on the court at what time and controlling, setting a game plan before a game. I mean, there's really nothing he can do outside of that. It's all up to the players and. Give it time. I mean, Tatum seems to like him, I guess. I mean, the players seem to like him, which is always good because you don't want locker room controversy. Or, I mean, in the Celtics case, maybe you do because then you'll have a meeting that's unsuccessful and start playing well after. So, but yeah.
We need two things. We need, number one, a book on this 2018-19 season or just an article. Like, no one released a hit piece after that season. Usually when those teams go bad, when those championship caliber or championship hopeful teams go bad, there's some kind of hit piece, right, at the end of the season where it's like, oh, see, this player didn't like this player, and this player had beef with him and the coaching, and there's this incident in the locker room during the season. That piece never came out about that team, despite that team clearly lacking something within the chemistry ranks, and also the whole team meeting earlier. Sometimes I wonder, I'm like, Tatum, Brown, and Smart, are they good together? Like, they good? I mean, they've been through a lot. But, like, are they...
Are they, like, actually, like...
Are they... I know they, like, come out and work together, and that's, like, all fun and good, and they say that in the post-game pressers and just the media pressers in general. But I wonder if, like, do these guys' personalities match up to where they're, like actually dudes with each other. Like we've seen tight teams before, and like I always think back like the Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, Avery Bradley Celtics, like all those teams, like they were really tight. Like this team is tight, like that group is tight, but like are they that tight? Like are they like I'm going to war for this dude tight, or are they just like I work with this guy, we're good?
Yeah.
Like it's kind of different,
Also,
you know what I'm saying?
one more stat, and this is kind of one of those obscure stats, but it's still interesting to think about. Celtics are now 0-8 when trailing by 5+ points at halftime.
Jeez 5+ points. I mean, I guess because typically, I mean,
So just as long as we're losing by 1 to 4 points against the Suns on Friday, then we'll be fine. We'll be all good.
well, 0-8 is very stark, I would say, but I don't know. Maybe that'll improve eventually throughout. Well, hopefully we're not down by 5+ points a bunch of more times. Hopefully that record stays 0-8 the whole season and we're never down 5+, because that means something pretty good happened. But anyway, Celtics, we have another game on Friday. Phoenix Suns coming up. And tonight against the Clippers, you lose by 3. Didn't really feel like you lost by 3. Felt like you lost by 20, considering how a game went. But the Celtics, they pull out they don't pull out anything tonight. They take home the L.
They take the L.
Back to the hotel. And
they're gonna have a fun night tonight.
Anything
partying.
else? Yeah, they're gonna have a fun night.
We're gonna have a
partying
fun night partying. Then we're gonna have the photo shoot of them walking onto the plane. All of them are gonna have hoodies and sunglasses, and it's gonna happen. It doesn't matter what team you are. It doesn't matter what player you are. If you have free range and you make a boatload of money and you're in Los Angeles for essentially free, all you got to do is play 2 basketball games. Then you got all the time to yourself. You're gonna have fun.
Who they get from those games? The game checks are quite large, I would say, in the NBA.
It's not like the NFL where you have to hit certain requirements to get paid.
Yeah,
most of contracts are guaranteed.
They're guaranteed. And even the guys who we're gonna go off the fringe again real quick. Even dudes who aren't non-guaranteed still get some pretty good guaranteed money. Like Jabari Parker, his non-guaranteed contract was waived earlier before the season, before we signed him back. Still got $100K just for being in training camp and off that contract and whatnot. So that's still 8 years worth of salary, 6 figures. But anyway, Celtics take home the L against the Clippers tonight. Any last thoughts outside of the as we now approach over an hour? We did it. We're over an hour. Any final thoughts at all? I know we just
really nothing much else to say. Celtics kind of got embarrassed, which this season, we're used to this as Celtics fans, or at least we should be at this point. But it happens. It was. I would like to say it wasn't a big deal, which, it really wasn't in the long run. There's really not much you could take out of this game anyway, or at least positively. But we've said this a bunch of times, but we've had our biggest test of the season coming up on Friday. We'll see how we play against the Suns. Don't forget to follow us on social media at the Celtics Talk Weekly, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Spotify, Apple playlists. If there's a social media, we're most likely on it. So don't forget to follow us on there.
Yep. Thank you all for listening tonight. If you are still listening, it's what now? 2:30 on the East Coast. So thank you for staying up with us. And that's my guy. Wait a minute. Oh, I had to rob him right there. That's my guy, Ian, right there. I'm Seamus, a.k.a. Celtics Every Day. Thank you all for listening. And as I always say to end all of my segments, go Celtics. Go Celtics.